Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Something Something podcast. My name is Eric Kasloff, and with me, as always, is Larry Sands. How's it going, Larry?
Da 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 da. Guess what, Eric? I'm
What's
doing
up?
great as always, but I have some pretty big Guns N' Roses news.
They were just in Jersey, and I missed it.
Yes, right. They were a stone's throw from you,
Yeah.
you know? Um, but I'd like to announce, just in case anybody out there doesn't really know, Guns N' Roses has a new song. Perhaps. It's called Perhaps, Eric.
Is
And
it going
it
to take another 20 years for us to hear it?
No, it's out right now. It's up on I think it may be streaming already on all the platforms, but been watching the they even have a music video for it, Eric, up on
Does it
YouTube.
have a coffin where you can only see half of the person's face?
No, Eric, no, no, no. This is the reason I bring this up, and I think this is a perfect part to our episode today because obviously Guns N' Roses is like one of my favorite bands, right? Probably my favorite band, I
That's
could
cool.
say.
Okay, yeah.
And 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 it sounds a little bit Chinese democracy-ish, which by the way, I think is a pretty underrated album from Axl Rose slash Guns N' Roses ish. But this is
Velvet Revolver was more the new Guns N'
Oh
Roses album
man,
than
Velvet
Chinese
Revolver.
Democracy.
Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, man. Velvet Revolver was a behemoth.
Underrated.
That is too. Those I think those that have kind of got lost in the shuffle because of obviously how everything kind of the musical tastes have changed and things were changing, but to listen to Guns N' Roses and obviously like this version of Guns N' Roses is Slash, Axl, and Duff. So it has a really good flavor of Use Your Illusions mixed with the oh man, almost the sound of Chinese democracy mixed with obviously Velvet Revolver. So
That's awesome, man.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
this is a music-based episode today
yeah.
because I've been very nostalgic, and what's so much fun about when we talk is if you were honest, glam metal is kind of your thing.
Yeah. Oh
And the
no, it
thing
oh
with
definitely
glam
is.
metal is
Yeah.
it was always big and flashy, but I come from more of a punk, emo, hardcore scene, which is
Right.
more DIY, get in the van, dirty-ish, like, oh, well, the note's not perfect. So what? Just do it. And you see that with the way we work on stuff.
Right.
Recently, I've been reading two great books. I'm going to talk about the first one, and that is Where Are Your Boys Tonight by Chris Pini. I hope I'm saying his last name right. And it's all about the rise of emo music from the late 90s into early 2000s. And I was very into that era. And what was bumming me out in the book is all this great stuff was happening in New Jersey, but I was living in Los Angeles at the time. So I was like, man, I could have been there at the beginning of Thursday, My Chemical Romance, and all this other great stuff.
Yeah.
So while I was feeling nostalgic about my 20s, I started all this stuff on my in social media about how much I miss MySpace. I put up this thing, only one man can reunite our country right now. And I put a picture of Tom, and I was just asking friends, do you think he still thinks about us? Do you think he'll come back and save us one day? Then, as I was looking for my next book, I found this really cool book called Your Top Eight. And it's all about how MySpace really changed the music and culture, if you think about it. I mean, there were other social media sites, and the book does mention that. And I don't want to say too much about the book because we kind of have the writer on the show today.
Yes.
Mike, again, pronounce your last name for us so I don't get it wrong.
My name is Michael Tedder.
Michael Tenor. So again, man, thanks so
Tedder.
much for
Michael
Tedder,
coming.
Tedder.
yeah.
Hmm?
Tedder. Yeah, Tedder.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
gonna get it wrong, so I'm just gonna apologize in advance. So, tell us more about yourself, man, before we get into the book, like your beginnings and stuff like that.
Uh, Hello, very happy to be
Yeah.
on the podcast. Thank you for talking about my book, Top 8: How MySpace Changed Music, which is available now. Yeah, I'm a
Links will be in the description.
Yeah.
great. Yeah, I'm a journalist and a writer. I write about music, film, television, masculinity, politics occasionally, some finance. I've written for Spin, Stereo Gum, The Village Voice, Esquire, Mel, The Ringer, Inside Hook, Variety, a bunch of other places. Yeah, and this is my first book. It's been a long time dream of mine to see my name in a bookstore. And last week I did two great events at the Strand in New York and Word Bookstore in Brooklyn. And yeah, uh things are going great so far. Like people seem to be enjoying the book, which is very, very something I'm very grateful for.
Very rewarding it's got to be, because I mean, and I mean, look, your credits include some of the biggest names in magazine, right? In written form. And to have a book that is such, it really is my MySpace was a cultural phenomenon, right?
Mhm.
And
Oh, definitely.
how did you come up with the topic of MySpace?
Well, it started off as a feature article in Stereo Gum that Scott Lapatine, the founder of Stereo Gum, asked me to do. So shout out to Scott. And then, at one point, my draft of that article is 50,000 words because I talked to a lot of people. And typically a book is around 100,000 words. So, okay, I'm halfway to a book. Why don't I just keep going? But I was not halfway to a book. It took a lot more time after I actually finished a book. And the final book is longer than 100,000 words also. But once I got started, I realized it was really interesting. MySpace was a very interesting symbol for the time period when it really felt like the internet had changed everything, where all the old gatekeepers were out. We had thrown out the old guard, and now a new generation was going to kind of take ownership of the culture. It'd be MySpace and the blogosphere would be how we found music. We wouldn't need radio or MTV or the industry at large. We could do it ourselves. And we kind of got away from that feeling as the internet progressed. It kind of only lasted a little while, but when it did last, it was very exciting. It's something kind of worth looking back on. So kind of figure out, okay, because I'm not one of the people who's like music sucks now. I think that's a very silly opinion because every era has great music. Sometimes it's more underground. Sometimes you have to look a little harder for it. I was just listening to the new Rap Boys album today. Great band. Highly recommend people pick up their new one. But I definitely feel between the streaming industries like Spotify and major labels kind of like trying to create viral sensations like TikTok, which are very manufactured. It feels more top down and a gatekeep than ever. So I'm hoping my book can kind of give people insights to how we can get back to something that felt like freer and that really put like artists and fans first.
Right.
I'm so happy you mentioned that, how being mainstream now, which I love mainstream music, I'm not ashamed to admit that, is having a huge TikTok video, a huge TikTok song. But then the whole thing, I'll say it, that whole song where it's the alphabet, but F you, that was manufactured. That wasn't really a song she came up with. It was already done. And when people found out, no one really cared because again, it's a pretty good song.
Yeah, a
But
catchy song is a catchy song. You don't really need to overthink it. But
Yeah.
there was a story last year where Halsey, they said their record label wouldn't release their current single until they made a viral video or until they had a song that went viral on TikTok. So eventually, Halsey, they just left their label because they didn't want to deal with it anymore. And you see that more and more. And that's kind of the opposite of what MySpace was. MySpace was a lot more organic. It kind of let the fans decide what they wanted to do. It really centered the artist and the fan relationship above all. And it wasn't just kind of attempt to game the algorithm.
Oh man, don't get me started about the algorithm, because
and
now that now that we're talking really quick, my thing is the just as AI doesn't have a soul, the algorithm has absolutely no soul.
Not at all.
And I find it very unfortunate that I talk to a lot of people who are professionals that want to start doing video, and they're so worried about the algorithm. To me, they miss who they are
Mhm.
as a professional. And it's either you want people to look at you as an expert or a professional in your chosen business by doing these videos that may be longer than the effing algorithm will let you, or it's just, I find it highly, highly, highly inappropriate
Yeah.
for
I, uh,
that to get in.
I find it very amusing that over the weekend I finally got around to watching Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part One, a very entertaining smart blockbuster. Those guys know what they're doing. And spoiler alert, it's not the biggest spoiler. The film's been out for a little while. The enemy in the film that Tom Cruise must defeat is literally an algorithm. Uh,
Oh, jeez.
he's on the quest to destroy this algorithm that's out to destroy the world. I'm like, I'm not sure what to think about this. I guess good for Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise realizes what's up.
Yeah, right, right. No doubt. No doubt. Eric, I know you were going to ask a question, but I think this is a good
Okay.
point, because I think people obviously that are our age, right?
Yeah.
I think we know or need reminding what MySpace is. And the people that, the younger generation that are listening to this, talk a little bit about what MySpace was and what it, not what it could have been, but yeah, really what it was with that made that special connection.
I just want to point out when you said explain what MySpace was, all three of our backs immediately started hurting, and we wanted to yell at the kids to get off our lawn.
Mhm.
But go
But
on. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so MySpace, it wasn't the first social media website. Social media kind of existed in nascent form in the late 90s. There was stuff like collegeclub.com, 6 Degrees. But back then, not a lot of people had high-speed internet, which really was the game changer. And it wasn't quite clear what you would do with these things or what they were for. You also had stuff like AOL, LiveJournal, and you had smaller social media platforms which were typically aimed at minority communities like Black Planet or Asian Ave. Then along comes Friendster. Friendster was a good idea, not executed well, because it was very slow to load. But basically, if you joined Friendster, you could befriend your friends. And that was kind of it. Once you went to your friend's page and wrote a testimonial for them and posted pictures of yourself like looking cool, there wasn't much else to do. What MySpace did was it made it easier to search through MySpace to find people. Let's say this being 2003, you were a big fan of Weezer, and either you wanted to like defend their new albums or you wanted to attack them. You could go through MySpace, find, okay, here's the Weezer fans. Oh, here's the Weezer fans in my neighborhood. Here's the Weezer fans in my town. Here's the Weezer fans in my school. I didn't know people at my school liked this stuff. So it's a real way to like kind of find your tribe.
right.
Because music, for better or for worse, mostly better. I mean, you can get exclusionary at times, but music is a real way to find your people.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you love a band, if two people love a band, even if they have nothing else in common politically, socially, whatever, if they both love Radiohead or Guns N' Roses or whatever,
Yeah.
they can talk about a lot.
Yeah.
And so Tom Manderson, the guy who created MySpace, he was in bands before he got a job at Intermix Media, the company that funded MySpace. He was in a band called Swank. He hired his good friend, a young woman named Bick, not Cal. She was like one of those people who was like online and super cool before anyone else was. Like she was running message boards. She had listservs. So she already knew how to run the internet, like when Tom hired her. And those two really knew that like the thing that would drive MySpace is music fandom. So they really centered that first and foremost. And that's why I always say MySpace was not the first social media website, but it certainly was the best.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. 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 It's so weird because it takes me back when you start talking about MySpace, and obviously it takes you back to, that was like the inception really of the beginnings of Facebook and Instagram and
Mhm.
TikTok for what kids know nowadays. And
Yeah.
I think it's interesting for kids in particular these days, although they may not realize it, but it's highly, highly important to understand, I think, how everything was back then to know how everything now
It
is.
was back when the internet was fun. Like one thing
Right.
you mentioned, Michael,
Yeah.
is how to me MySpace was more about finding your tribe and other interests, while the Facebook to me is more staying in touch with
Right.
people you
Mhm.
haven't seen in years. I was in film school right when MySpace was getting big, and it was always fun for me, even though a lot of times it was probably a bot of the band, but getting that message from a band saying, "Hey, check out our music," it made
Mhm.
you feel like, wow, this
Yeah.
band noticed something about my cool layout, even though maybe not. And it was just fun to find that band and then have them playing as soon as people came to your page. It was much more self-expression. And I think a lot of people got into web design
Oh yeah.
because of Pimp My Page and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Which we can announce. We can say that the website Pimp My MySpace, that that name did not age very well. But
No.
yes, you could we all know that's problematic. But yes, you could go to that website and download HTML. So many people learn how to make websites because
Yeah.
MySpace is customizable. If you want a background image of Axl Rose as your background plate,
Mhm.
or you want a background image of Marilyn Monroe, if you want your page to be like neon pink or baby blue or whatever you wanted, checkerboard. I think I had checkerboard for a little while. Uh, you could do that. Yeah. And Facebook, you couldn't customize it. Arguably, Facebook won out because it was cleaner. The design, especially when
Yeah.
Facebook first started, the layout was cleaner. These days, it's just as gaudy as anything else, but it had a sharper layout and you couldn't customize it, which made it easier for adults to trust. Like MySpace kind of felt like a teenager's bedroom. Like I see like your
Right.
wall right over there, Erica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you could have
Yeah.
all your posters on the wall. You could play your favorite music.
That's only half of them.
Yeah. And that's great for teenage, but I think adults were a little bit wary of MySpace. And so were advertisers because a lot of people on MySpace, as people do on the internet, they post the lascivious photos of themselves. You couldn't have nudes, but you could have close to it. And the advertisers were like, well, I don't want to advertise, Hanes doesn't want to advertise right next to photos of nearly naked people. They just don't want to.
Yeah.
Pantene doesn't want that either. So that made Facebook a bit more, because Facebook polices that a lot better. So while Facebook was more adult and like less chaotic, it was ultimately less fun. It had less personality. Like there might be someone out there who can like prove me wrong, but I'm willing to say no musical artist broke through Facebook. It kind of like Facebook isn't for fun. It's just, like you say, you can look at photos of your friends' kids and stuff.
Yeah.
I
Very
mean,
true. Very
because of
true.
MySpace, I wanted to ask you about this. We had Crunkcore. There is no way Crunkcore, like bands like Millionaires and all of that, would have existed with Facebook because Facebook is too snotty.
Yeah. Facebook's too boring. Like Tom Anderson, like his favorite band was Weezer. Like he really he would spend all day on MySpace going through the website, just trying to find new bands, either signed to his record label or like promote one way or the other. You can't imagine Mark Zuckerberg caring about music that much.
Right.
You know,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that passion and you could tell it through MySpace and how it was built and designed and really, I mean, you could really customize it to yourself and to your likes, right?
Yeah.
And it's like you said, you could put up like your wall, like your stuff. When you decided to start writing your book based on the writing of your article, walk us through that process, or what was that like? Because you had this article and then obviously as a book, you go really in depth. What was the next step in
Right.
your process?
Well, basically what happened was, this is a fairly common story these days. The article came out. It was April of 2020. The pandemic was kicked in. And I was like, I've been kicking around book ideas with my agent for a while. And there was one we were kind of close to, which is now back on the back burner. But I was like, well, I don't want to spend a year plus not doing anything with my life. That would be very frustrating to me. I'm getting older. I want to get a book out. So I sent the link of the story to my agent and was like, hey, do you think this could be a book? He goes, yes. Yes, it could be. Like, okay. So
Awesome.
I already had an agent from a few years ago. So I worked on a book proposal. We reworked it. I had some writer friends of mine look at it, give me notes. Very helpful. Love you very much, Rob Sheffield. Then finally, we pitched it September of 2020 and took about a month, got some offers. Then, yeah, a lot of negotiating back and forth, and finally the contract was signed, and I was able to get to work January. So took longer for me to get to work than I kind of thought I would, but that's how it goes. My agent was like, don't actually start writing the book until the contract is signed and you get the money. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, from there, I went through all my old interviews, contacted people, hey, can I use this for a book? Most people were like, fine. And then I just reached out to get more interviews. Like the original article only had a couple of interviews with people from MySpace who actually worked at MySpace. So I had to get a lot more. Kept trying to get Tom Anderson through backdoor channels. Didn't work, but I tried. Reached out to a lot more artists, and all writing basically starts with outlining, for me at least. So trying to figure out, okay, what are the themes?
Same here.
What stories do I want to follow? And then, like, once I had enough interviews, I kind of like, okay, I want to follow these people through the book. Here's what they represent, etc. Doing a lot of research, reading old articles from the New York Times, going back to the archives on Google Books, a Spin, and CMJ, and Rolling Stone, Fortune magazine. Reading a lot of old articles in music magazines, but also articles in tech publications and business publications like, Fortune, CNN, the Wall Street Journal, Wired, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So at one point, it's like I had a ton of information, just figuring out how to put it all together.
Yeah. And you really have some really good interviews with like the Dashboard Confessionals and Cobra Starship and My Chemical Romance. Those are really
My Mount Rushmore
giant.
of
Yeah. And when you talk to those guys, what was their take on MySpace?
Everyone had different opinions, of course, but yeah, they all missed it for one thing. They knew it was a special time, but they also aware that, like, I try to make very clear in the book that the MySpace era was great, but it was also, it could be toxic. A lot of female fans were like mistreated by musicians. A lot of female artists were, used and abused and manipulated and thrown away by the music industry. Happened a lot. Like, there's this one artist, Juliet Sims. She was a teenager in the MySpace era. She posted a few songs there. She posted a demo. Bick Not Cow heard it. Put her on the front page. She was like, the demo wasn't that good, said Bick, but she had a great voice. Juliet got signed to a record label. The record label said, okay, I know you want to be a rock star, but you have to make pop music. You have to be like Katy Perry. I'm not knocking Katy Perry.
Right.
You want to be, if it's not what you want to be, that's not what you want to be. And
Exactly,
then you force something to what it's not. They fired her band, this and that, wouldn't release the album. See a lot of those stories. So, and everyone was like very clear, like, yeah, like it could get really weird and intense. Like Chris Krupp said, oh yeah, people come up to me and tell me like their most painful secrets. They'll just tell me about like how they relate to my music. It'd be kind of heavy to, like, you're sitting there, someone's like, I was going to kill myself and I heard your song, but like, but you just try to be cool. You try to be supportive. Frank Iero from My Chemical Romance was like, I want to be there for my fans, but at some points it's better to be there with your fans through music. Like, too much one-on-one interaction can get a little weird for us, at least.
Yeah.
Because again, all those bands we were talking about really do have younger fan bases, and when you're a teenager, you're a slave to your emotions. So
Yeah.
you really do feel My Chemical Romance saved my life.
Right.
Instead of it being, hey, they're what inspired me to get help, to get on medication, to get this counselor. No, you think Gerard Way saved my life. So, and that's got to be a heavy thing for someone to hear.
Yeah, it's very weird. Even now we're realizing how forward thinking My Chemical Romance was. Because these days, I think it's a good thing. We talk a lot about more mental health, of how like if you're suffering from depression or anxiety to get help. You were talking about that in 2000s. But
Right.
Gerard Way, he's dealt with depression, he dealt with addiction. He would have in a show say, hey, if you're thinking about killing yourself, talk to someone. Like
Yeah.
your life is worth living. Like he was very open about how he got sober, like right when the band blew up, just because like he couldn't deal with he was drinking too much. He was very upfront about that. He would also Frank and Gerard Way would sometimes kiss on stage, just because like
Mhm.
I believe they're heterosexual, but they just kind of thought that like things were so macho in the music scene, they kind of want to like subvert that, and they kind of wanted they knew they had queer fans, they want to kind of wink at them and let them know it's okay they're there. Uh, and like in the 2000s, that was a bold move. People weren't ready for that. Whereas these days, like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
no one
Yeah.
cares
no one
pretty
cares at
much.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It,
So
I
what
mean,
was go on,
oh
Ryan.
no, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
What was your interaction with MySpace like? What was your time with the site like?
I was on Friendster, like we all were. I was
Same.
out of college. I was working. I was just freelancing around town. I lived in Orlando, Florida back then, and I went to a party, I think. I ran somebody and I was like, hey, they said, oh, we're not on Friendster anymore. We're on MySpace now. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't know what MySpace was, but I got on there. It's like, oh, this is a lot better. Because it was, oh, you can stream music on here. This is nice. Now I don't have to use Napster anymore. And I quickly realized,
Yeah.
oh, wow, you can just find bands on here. It was great. Yeah, so I was using it like everyone else was. Like everyone else was. I was very concerned when I heard the news that Tom Anderson had left the website. I was like, oh boy, that's not going to go well.
Yeah. And that really, it was such a it was a day to night shift pretty much when he left. I mean, the only thing, to use another musical reference, it changed everything the way Smells Like Teen Spirit changed music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The website, it got remember the front page used to be clean, but then logging onto it, you were just bombarded with anything Fox Studios movie that was coming out at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I
It's
think
crazy.
this is a odd thing to mention. One of my favorite MySpace things ever is when the social network came out.
Right.
MySpace was doing like these live talks, and they had a whole thing with Olivia Mudd talking about the Social Network movie, and I
Mhm.
just thought that was the funniest thing in the world.
It is kind of weird, isn't it? Yeah.
With what has the reaction been from people? Because I would assume, kind of expect, obviously it'd be like our age of people and then who knew about MySpace, but with the recent appearances that you've done, what's the reaction been about your book?
Oh, so far good. I've gotten some nice notices from people. We had a couple excerpts run. I had an excerpt run in the Ringer and Rolling Stone in Ringer, Rolling Stone, Daily Beast, Consequence, and Brooklyn Vegan. Love you all. Yeah, and it got like a lot of nice feedback from there. I follow some younger music writers on Twitter who have been very complimentary, which is nice. I wasn't really sure if younger people would know, but I think they do. I think they realize that emo is kind of back now, and they
Yeah.
know that MySpace and emo are intrinsically linked together forever. So as emo came back, there's been more nostalgia for MySpace, especially as like Twitter or X, whatever,
Oh
and Facebook
God.
continue to get worse and worse. And like we're all just very aware that the social media websites these days have an algorithm designed to keep you engaged no matter what. And the algorithm usually involves showing you content that'll make you angry, or you'll feel like you're left out of the party, or this or that. But MySpace didn't have any of that stuff. MySpace didn't try to manipulate your emotions like that. So I think there's nostalgia for like when social media felt like less creepy and like less invasive.
Right, right, right.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
I think fun is the main way I could explain it because there was always something to do on MySpace
Yeah.
discovering music. I know a lot of filmmakers at the time were putting stuff up there too.
Yep.
You were able to find stuff.
Mhm.
Some of my classmates would put their movies because YouTube was just kind of starting around that
Yeah.
time also. But
Um, hey, Michael, would you want to like read an excerpt from your book? Do you have it there with you?
Sure. One moment.
Perfect.
I'm going to read the thing I read at all my readings. It's the first 2 pages of my book.
Cool.
Uh, okay.
All right.
This is Top 8 How MySpace Changed Music by Michael Tedder. Everyone who's alive during the George W. Bush nightmare knows the picture. If you're young and wired, up too late, fretting over your top 8, on the verge of discovering your favorite new band, and practicing the duck face you'd make in your next several thousand selfies, it's burned into your memory like a CDR. There he is, Tom Anderson, sporting a white undershirt and a 5 o'clock shadow, his head tilted a few degrees toward the camera. His grin is as wide as the whiteboard hovering behind him, like a scribble filled thought bubble, and he's smiling with his eyes in a way that conveys authentic excitement. He's absolutely thrilled you've logged on to his site, and he's so happy to be your friend. Until the last millennial shuffles off this mortal coil, this image will linger in the collective unconscious like a hypersaturated, hyperlinked Proustian reverie. No one who worked with Anderson seems to have a bad word to say about him. He was a bit of a hustler, baby, but ultimately a benign one. He loved music with all of his being, the true love that only a teenager can feel, but some lucky adults can still tap into. He wanted to share that love above all, and so he maneuvered his way into co-creating the best website music fans of all stripes and sounds would ever know. MySpace did not start the social media age, but unquestionably brought social media to the masses. There was a time when you could reasonably argue this was a good thing. But if social media has taught us anything, it's that people fuck up all the damn time. Every day, every minute. It's what we do, and we're damn good at it. Sometimes the small faux pas, and sometimes the fuck up changes the world, dashing dreams and ruining lives in the process. Sometimes you don't know what you've done in the moment, and you won't realize your mistake until much later, if ever. But sometimes the universe lets you know quite clearly that you have fucked up. And if you're Tom Anderson, the universe takes the form of your best friend throwing a DVD at your head, wiping that sinister grin off your face. It's hard to miss a message like that. Anderson had a work ethic beyond his years. He was always the last to leave the office, an irrepressible, boyish spirit, a true believer in music's promise to bring people together. He wanted to connect the entire world through rabid fandom, hot jams, hotter babes, and a cool website with previously unimaginable bells and whistles. He just wanted us all to have a good time together. But while he wanted to interlink the world, he didn't always pay the necessary attention to it. He didn't really know much about Rupert Murdoch's whole deal was when his company News Corp bought MySpace for $580 million in July 2005. All that adult stuff felt to Chris DeWolf, Anderson's partner and MySpace's co-founder. Like any former punk, Anderson was worried about the man, but Murdoch assured him and DeWolf they could do what they wanted with the site. He just handled the business end. DeWolf had lived through the dot-com bust of early 2000 that brought down once hyped websites like pets.com. And he knew their parent company, Intermix Media, needed money to keep up the skyrocketing growth they experienced in the past 2 years, lest they crash and burn like Friendster. Anderson wasn't to have a cool guy who balked when his beloved indie act signed to a major. His favorite band in the world was Weezer, for goodness sakes. So what's the worst that could happen?
That's
Love it.
amazing.
Love it, man. What was
That's
so great
great.
about those
Thank you.
2 pages is
Thank
even
you.
when I was listening to it, I was like, man, we got a really quick history of the internet
No doubt.
within
Yeah.
those two
Thank you.
pages. That was
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah.
You're very
Well,
kind. Thank you.
hmm,
You're very
Yes.
kind. Thank you.
oh yeah, again, I'm really enjoying the book. I've been listening to it all weekend, and we just want to thank you again, Michael, for coming on the show and sharing everything about the book
Yeah.
with us.
Yeah.
Links to purchase the book and all of your social media links will be in the description.
Oh, thank
If
you.
if you're listening in on Anchor, and when we post it onto our social media, we will make sure to link you.
Yes.
Everyone, thank you again.
I have one thing to ask.
Oh.
Do you have any events coming up, or if you do, let us know. Tag us on Instagram,
Yeah.
and we'd love to have you back on.
Sure.
So to
Here's
talk
my
about it.
company events. I will be at Exile and Bookville in Chicago on October 14th, the day before Riot Fest. Lineup to be determined, but I'll be reading with a couple of emo luminaries, or I'll be
Awesome.
having a panel with a couple of emo luminaries to be announced.
Nice.
I will also be doing an event at Hoboken's Little City Bookstore with the Rolling Stone writer Brittany Spanos on October 5th. And I will be at my hometown of Orlando, Park Avenue CDs, on October 11th with the novelist Chris Narnett.
Wow.
Well, the
Wow.
Hoboken one, I'm gonna try to make it to because I'm in Lodi,
Got to.
so
Oh,
I'm pretty much there already.
Oh, great. Yeah, make it happen, man. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is just really quick available on Kindle and of course as an audiobook. Be sure to check Amazon.com, and links are in the description, like Eric said. And Michael, man, thank you so much for
You're welcome,
taking
man.
the time to being on the show, and really, really appreciate you and your talent.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. That's really nice. Thank you so much. I had a
And
good time, Larry.
and like we say each and every week, folks, remember, support our troops.